Hi, Grandma here, and I'm reading David Night by Gail Carson Levine. Chapter 6, we met more of Dave's classmates and people who are potentially friends, which he is happy with. But then he also met the bullies, which he's not happy with. He also has received a letter from his brother Gideon, which he has torn up and thrown in a toilet. Chapter 7. On my way back from the toilet, I looked around. The basement was mostly open space, interrupted by pillars. There were a few rooms, though. The first one I passed was full of broken furniture, desks, chairs, tables. Beyond that was a big closet. Its door was open, and I saw shelves of supplies and tools. Then in the open space again, clotheslines were strung between the pillars, and I saw enormous sinks and wringers. Somebody was singing. I passed a door to a small room. Inside, a man was changing his shirt and singing a sad song. I heard the words, "Please, Mr. Policeman, help me find." It looked like the man lived down there. There was a cot and a dresser. The janitor, I guessed. Beyond the janitor's room was a furnace and the coal chute, and then I was back in the dining hall. Everyone was leaving. I got my notebook and arithmetic textbook from our bench and followed the crowd to an auditorium where we were supposed to do our homework. I was in the middle of a bunch of younger kids. Most of the 11s were a few rows behind me. Mike's head was down. He was probably drawing violins. The other 11s were whispering and watching out for prefix. I opened my notebook on my lap and started drawing. I tried to draw Mr. Doom's face, but he kept looking like a baby wearing spectacles because of his wide cheeks and his little piggy nose. While I drew, I wondered what we were supposed to do when the next bell rang. They rang a bell here whenever they wanted you to do something. Go to your classroom, leave your classroom, go to the dining room, have your food stolen. I gave up on Mr. Doom. Nobody would want to look at a picture of him anyway. I started a letter. "Dear Papa, you never guess where I am." And then I crossed out the words. If I kept writing, I'd start bawling in front of everybody. I opened my book to do our homework, dividing fractions. I could do it in my sleep. The bell rang. I followed everybody again. I saw Mike turn and look for me. I yelled to him to wait, but he was too far ahead to hear. In the hall, some kids went into the stairwell at the end of the corridor. Some stood around talking, but most were headed toward the back of the home. I went along. Halfway down the back hallway, we turned into a short hall leading to a courtyard surrounded on all four sides by the HHB. There were street lamps in each corner, which were on. Way above, the stars were out. As soon as they got outside, everybody went crazy. Running, kicking, punching, yelling, jumping. A few adults, probably prefects, stood in the far corner talking to each other. I backed out. If we could do whatever we wanted, I wanted to find my suitcase and check out where I was supposed to sleep. The orphanage was shaped like a square donut around the courtyard I just left. Classrooms and offices seemed to be on the main floor. I tried the second floor, then the third. Upstairs, I opened the first door I came to. Inside was an ocean of beds, rows and rows of them with a suitcase under each one. A pair of slippers sat on the floor next to each bed. I'd never worn slippers in my life. The ones in here were too small for an 11-year-old unless he was a midget. Across from me were 3 tall windows. The glass in one of them was cracked, held in place with black tape. A table stood in the corner to my left near the windows. The long wall behind me was lined with wooden cubbies. The corner of a photograph stuck out from underneath the pillow of the bed closest to me. I lifted the pillow and saw a photo of a family, a girl about 7 years old, and an even younger girl, a man with a mustache and a lady holding a baby. I put the pillow back and went on to the next room. The slippers there were even smaller. I kept going. I was checking the 8th room when the bell rang. I didn't pay attention. The slippers in the 9th room seemed about my size. I looked under the beds for my suitcase. I was walking along the 3rd row of beds when the door opened and the 11s came in, followed by Mr. Meltzer. I called to him, "Where's my suitcase?" He ignored me. I started toward him. "It's here," a voice called from halfway across the room near the door. It was Mike, waving and hopping. My suitcase was under the bed next to his. Mike was half undressed. All over the room, kids were changing into striped pajamas like a prison uniform. I'd never worn pajamas. Mine were spread out on top of my bed. I put them on. The cloth wasn't much softer than my iron knickers. I wanted to show Papa's carving to Mike, so I pulled out my suitcase. It felt too light. I fumbled with the clasp. It was empty. Mike said something. I didn't hear what. Mr. Meltzer was sitting across the room at a table by the window. I ran to him. "Who took my property?" I yelled. He took his time answering. Finally he said, "Your things belong to the home. Mr. Bloom's orders." He barked a laugh. "Complain to him." "All right, I would." I started for the door. Mr. Meltzer called after me, "20 minutes to lights out. Be here or else." Mike followed me. In the hall, I wheeled on him. "What do you want?" He rubbed the top of his head and scratched one foot with the other. "They throw your old clothes away, buddy. By the time you leave here, they won't fit you anymore." "I don't care about my clothes. It's something else. I had to get my father's carving back. When I came, I had a farmer's almanac. They put it in the library." "It isn't a book. There's other stuff too. There's a wooden sailboat. Where's the library?" "Come on." He led me to one of the stairwells. 2 boys chasing a 3rd ran past us. We started downstairs. Mike kept on talking. "The people who run this place are rich, so why do they take our stuff? They think they're going to open a suitcase and find $1 million? He did a strangled laugh again. "A boy has $1 million. He can live at the Waldorf, but he's rather freeze to death at the hopeless house of beggars." We have another HHB definition. I wasn't paying attention to Mike. I only cared about the carving. He opened the door to the main floor. We were in the back hallway. We walked a few steps, then Mike opened a door and turned on a light switch. The walls were lined with bookcases. There were more bookcases in the middle of the room. "Where?" Mike pointed at a glass cabinet between 2 windows. I went to it. It held a wooden boat, a stuffed sparrow, and shells full of funny-looking clay animals that must have been made by the kids. No carving. "It's not here." We left the library. Mr. Doom had said only bad boys saw his office again. Well, I was going back there. I had grabbed the yardstick before he did. "Are you really going to Mr. Doom?" "Well, you don't have to come." "Oh, I'm coming. This I have to see." I hurried back the hall. "I don't think you should bother Mr. Doom," Mike said from behind me. "You should have seen what he did to Leon." "Shut up. He's not going to do anything to me." But I was scared a little anyway. "I'll get the nurse if you need her, buddy." The bell rang for lights out. I knocked on the door to Mr. Doom's office. Mike hopped up and down, ready to run. "Let's go. He isn't here." I knocked louder. "Come on, Dave. He must have gone home. He doesn't live here." I pounded on the door, and while I pounded, I made my decision. I wasn't staying in a place that stole your private possessions. I'd get my carving back, and then I'd scram. No answer. I turned the knob. The door was locked. I didn't know where else to look for now. "It's a good thing Mr. Meltzer never hits," Mike said as we ran back. Mr. Meltzer was waiting outside our room. "Stinking brats, I told you to get back here." He herded us in ahead of him. "Get into bed. Go to sleep." Mr. Meltzer left, and all the 11s crowded around my bed. "Did you find Mr. Doom?" one of them asked. It was too dark to see who was talking. If he did, he'd be on a stretcher. another voice said. I think it was Harvey. The voice sounded hoarse. He wasn't there, I said. He pounded on his office door, Mike said, bragging about me, like Mr. Doom should be scared of him. Remember when Leon told Mr. Doom the food was lousy? Said Alfie, the kid with the cough. My eyes were getting used to the dark. Somebody tall said, "What happened, buddy?" Mr. Doom whacked him so hard he flew 10 feet and bounced twice. That was one of the twins. They started telling Mr. Doom's stories. I stretched out on my bed, closed my eyes, but I heard every word. Mr. Doom's victims lost teeth, needed stitches, needed crutches. 16-year-old bullies begged for mercy, screamed for their mamas. Finally, the buddies drifted back to their beds, and gradually the feeling in the room changed as they fell asleep. I heard snoring. Someone whimpered. Someone coughed. The room was so big it was almost like sleeping outside. And it was so cold and humid that sleep could have started coming down. One blanket wasn't enough. I put my pillow over my head to block out everyone's noise and to keep my ears warm. I swore an oath, whispering into the thin mattress, I would take back the carving and get out of here. Mr. Doom sounds kind of scary. Sounds like he really abuses the boys. And I hope Dave doesn't get in trouble. Okay, bye-bye.